Lest we forget, the nation pauses to commemorate Anzac Day.
We are born of the Anzacs. We are the custodians and stewards of their spirit. We must take good care of it.
Marching on, thousands line Sydney's streets to honour Australia's war heroes.
I'm Philip Williams here in Gallipoli. It's been 99 years since the Anzacs first landed on these shores. Today, thousands of Australians and New Zealanders stood together to remember them.
Also tonight, a man shot as tempers flare at a strata meeting in Sydney's west. And Newcastle Knights' Alex McKinnon speaks publicly for the first time since his devastating injury. Good evening, Juanita Phillips with ABC News. Today marks 99 years since the Anzac's Gallipoli landing, and Australians once again turned out en masse to remember them. Anzac Day is also a time to honour those who've served since and who are still serving in our armed forces. From the quiet reflection of the dawn service to the more boisterous tradition of two-up in the pub, the spirit of the Anzacs shows no signs of fading. Ben Worsley begins our coverage in Sydney.
In the still of the night, Sydney stands silent. 20,000 people, then a single drum. High above, the rising sun rises well before first light. Wreaths are laid and a bugle sounds. A solemn note to begin a day to remember.
We haven't forgotten. We learn and we prosper. Lest we forget.
As day broke, the heavens opened, but this was no time to be deterred.
See these people here? Beautiful. That's what it's all about.
It's wonderful. In the rain and everything. It's just so beautiful.
Through the city's heart, another 20,000 marched.
It gets better every year.
How many years have you done this?
Oh, ever since the war.
Countless more braved the rain and lined the streets. Pride and appreciation in equal measure.
My niece is carrying the flag for the Afghanistan troops. So I come all the way from Albury just to see her.
It's our father, Pat Slattery. He went to the Korean War, and we're here today to see his old ship march past.
You know what? You got to keep the memory alive. You really do.
Frank McGovern's memories are vivid. He was on HMAS Perth when it went down in World War II.
Winston Churchill called it a forlorn battle. We had another name for a disaster.
Pretty fresh in the memory?
Oh, yes. Never forget it, mate.
Frank Harlow just turned 100. For him, this is a day to savour.
Very important. I have some very good friends over the other side.
99 years since Gallipoli, Sydney shows few signs of forgetting. This, after all, is a tradition you can bet on. Come in Spinner, and cheers to all. Ben Worsley, ABC News, Sydney.
Thousands of Australians have made the journey to Gallipoli to experience the dawn service at the place where the Anzac legend was born. Numbers were down this year, but the emotion was strong as the sun rose on the beaches and fields where so many lost their lives. Europe correspondent Philip Williams reports from Gallipoli.
They came in the dead of night, thousands gathering for the time-honoured tradition. For many, a pilgrimage, for families heartbroken near a century ago.
As dawn rises above the ridges, we think back to how it was that morning and to those who gave their lives to change our world forevermore.
Amazing grace. In 1915, in dim morning light, the first boats had landed. By the time the last soldiers were evacuated, 8,709 Australian soldiers were dead, near 20,000 wounded. The Turks lost around 87,000 during that bloody campaign.
They did not seek glory, nor did they want their actions to be glorified, for it was they who quickly came to know the true horror of war.
For the Turks too, this is an important day, a generosity of spirit from the defenders exemplified in the words of the former Turkish president and Gallipoli veteran Mustafa Kemal Atatürk.
Away your tears. Your sons are now lying in our bosom and are in peace. After having lost their lives on this land, they have become our sons as well.
For some soldiers on both sides, this day 99 years ago was their last, their war over, but none have been forgotten.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
After the Anzac ceremony by the coast, thousands are now making the long push up the hill to Lone Pine Cemetery for the Australian ceremony. And every inch they travel, they go to the killing fields of 1915.
In the place so many Australian soldiers are buried, thousands paid their respects, the dead honoured by relatives, by strangers, drawn to this place of history, of tragedy.
And ABC correspondent Philip Williams joins us now from Anzac Cove at Gallipoli. Phil, what was the mood like there this morning?
Well, there was an atmosphere of respect, of sadness, of reflection from all ages, and all ages were represented here. There were the children of veterans here, there were the great-grandchildren of veterans here, and everybody, I think, really felt the spirit of this place in this 99th year.
The crowds were smaller this year. Is that disappointing for organisers ahead of the 100th anniversary next year?
I guess they would have hoped for more. They had certainly catered for about 12,000, 4,300 or so turned up on the day. But these figures do vary, we're told, and really it served as a practice run for the 100th. That's the really big event that they're concentrating on now, and they'll use that for a lesson for those that 100th anniversary, when they know that 12,000 people will turn up because they have been balloted, they have been ticketed, and they know their names already.
Philip Williams reporting there from Gallipoli. Well, in Canberra, it was a different story on numbers. Record crowds turned out for the National Anzac Day services. The attendance boosted, no doubt, by the presence of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Prince William and his wife Catherine were up early, making a surprise appearance at the dawn service. Nada Gilmore reports.
In the pre-dawn light of the nation's capital, theirs were just another two faces in the crowd. More than 37,000 braved the Canberra chill. There was no pomp or fanfare. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge slipped in quietly to pay their respects at the day's most sombre service.
We are born of the Anzacs. We are the custodians and stewards of their spirit now and into the future. We must take good care of it.
From dawn and through the day, that Anzac spirit was honoured. The famous battlefields of France, where the Foreign Minister Julie Bishop laid a wreath. On the Kokoda track in Papua New Guinea, where hundreds of Australians died. And in Afghanistan, the last Australian soldiers there paused to reflect. At home, crowds at the national service and march were bigger than ever. The British Royals haven't attended an Anzac Day service in Canberra since 1970.
Long ago, we ceased to regard Britain as the mother country, but we're still family. Your presence, sir, reminds us of all our comrades in arms.
They had a regal audience, but the day belonged to these men and women, veterans and their families, as always, marching proud. This year they were led by the country's 4 living recipients of the Victoria Cross.
We honour those who have done what we have not, and hope that we might find it in ourselves to rise to the supreme challenge, as they did, should we ever be put to the test.
The service was a poignant end to the royal couple's 10-day tour of Australia. Their final stop, the tomb of the unknown soldier. and a few moments to reflect on the scale of Australia's sacrifice. The planting of a lone pine in the shadow of the War Memorial will ensure the memory of this special Anzac Day lives on. Nada Gilmore, ABC News, Canberra.
A 91-year-old World War II pilot has led a fly-past of tiger moths in the skies above Sydney. Bill Purdy took the controls in the leading aircraft, braving the weather for a spectacular pass over the Harbour Bridge. The veteran pilot flew 36 missions over Germany in the Second World War. 70 years on, the fly-past is a chance to pay tribute to fallen comrades.
It's certainly a tribute, and I would like it to be a tribute to everyone that took part, and particularly those that didn't make it, because a lot of them didn't.
3 tiger moths made the return journey from Luscantire in the Hunter Valley, flying over Newcastle on the way back.
Israel's Security Council met for 6 hours and the decision was unanimous. It would put a stop to peace talks with the Palestinians.
The Palestinian president not only refused to recognize the Jewish state, he embraced the very people who call for the outright destruction of the Jewish state.
Hamas and Fatah officials weren't surprised by the reaction to their decision to end a 7-year rift. The radical Hamas faction is regarded as a terrorist organisation by the US and Israel.
This is occupation, and they absolutely do not want the Palestinian people to be united. They want the division to continue.
In my opinion, it is Mr. Netanyahu that is the problem. It is his extreme government that is the problem.
It all but spells the end of this latest attempt by the US to forge ahead with peace talks.
We may see a way forward, but if they're not willing to make the compromises necessary, it becomes very elusive.
Next week was the deadline for this negotiating period, but there had been talk of an extension that now seems highly unlikely.
Instead of choosing to embrace peace with Israel, he made a pact with Hamas, a terror organization committed to Israel's destruction.
We will never give up our hope or our commitment for the possibilities of peace.
But even John Kerry admits attempts to negotiate Middle East peace are at a difficult point. Lisa Miller, ABC News.
So what did the weather turn on for Anzac Day? Well, it was a soggy start for the dawn services in Sydney, clearing to a fine day in the afternoon, a top of 21. A severe thunderstorm warning was issued for people in the northern tablelands and parts of the northern rivers, but that's just been cancelled. The cancellation also stands for parts of the mid-north coast, central tablelands, northwest slopes and plains and central slopes and plains. There were showers across much of New South Wales today. Across the capitals, there were showers along much of the east coast, although generally clear in Melbourne, windy with showers in Hobart and the odd storm in Perth. To the satellite image, and a deepening low remains off the top end. A trough over northeastern New South Wales is triggering showers and potentially severe thunderstorms with heavy rain and large hail. A front and trough is approaching South Australia, producing showers, while a trough about western parts of WA is generating heavy showers with the odd thunderstorm. Possible showers in Brisbane and Darwin tomorrow, a possible storm in Perth, a few clouds about Sydney and Canberra. Around New South Wales tomorrow, partly cloudy with some areas of patchy fog. Winds up to 20 knots with seas to 1.5 metres. In the southeast, cloudy with a chance of showers, mainly in the evening. There's a strong wind warning stretching from Illawarra to Eden coastal waters. Cloudy with the chance of rain over inland New South Wales. In Sydney tomorrow, it'll be mostly cloudy with a top of 26 degrees. For Sydney waters, northerly winds to 25 knots and seas to 2 metres. The sun will be up at 6:26 and the 7-day outlook has isolated showers extending throughout next week. A bit of a reprieve on Monday. It'll be fine, although cloudy conditions forecast then. And that is ABC News for this Friday. Stay with us now for 7:30 New South Wales with Quentin Dempster.